Today we take a look at the ultimate party comp for Baldur's Gate 3. Let's get to it. So the other day, one of you fantastic people commented on one of my build guides asking me what my ultimate party comp would be, considering I've made a bunch of different build guides for Baldur's Gate 3. And I thought, you know what? That's a fantastic idea. But we needed a healer. So I made my healer build. And now that that is done, we have the ultimate party comp video. So I have a guide for every one of the builds that you are going to see in this video. However, there are a few changes and tweaks that I've had to make to a couple of them, and one of them I made some massive improvements on gear wise, and we're gonna cover all of the different builds that are in this ultimate party comp, as well as talk about what those changes and balances are. But first, let's talk about the most important thing. What are each of the builds in this party comp? So we have the ultimate monk build, followed by the completely busted and further improved on fog cloud build, the even more completely broken radiant orb build, and my ultimate healer build. A link to each of these builds will be provided down there in the description. I'm not going to go into as much detail in this video as I do in those videos. So if you want to know more about any one of these specific builds, hop down there and click one of those links after finishing this video. These builds come together in a way that synergizes and causes so much unstoppable chaos that it is absolutely insane. And I mean that. It is insane, and it feels like cheating, and the AI just doesn't know what to do and can't handle any part of this build comp. The Radiant Orb build ensures that nobody can be hit by any of the NPCs. The Monk puts out absolutely insane amounts of damage. The Fog Cloud build ensures that you will always have a person there just in case things go bad that isn't being attacked by the AI at all, because the AI can't even see it, as it devastates them from the shadows, hitting them for massive amounts of damage every turn. And to bring it all together, just ensure that everybody stays as topped off on health as possible, we have an absolutely insane healer build that not only heals itself for insane amounts of HP, but also heals the party members for tons of HP and can support them like no other build. On top of that, almost every one of these builds can come together by around mid-Act 2. You'll have most of your gear for all of these builds by the time you finish Act 1, because in my later guides, I made sure to specifically pick gear that you could get early on that would last you until late game. Now, obviously, there are some things that you can pick up in Act 3 that are upgrades to what you would have, but the awesome thing about this setup and these builds is you don't have to. You're going to be so insanely strong that it won't really matter, with the exception of the Broken Monk, because the Broken Monk kind of got to grab some stuff in Act 3 to really top it all off. It's going to be strong by the time you're done Act 2, but those things that you're going to pick up in Act 3 are going to just drive it over the top. Let's quickly take a look at the breakdown of levels here. So my main character, Jess, is the Monk build. We have 1 level in Cleric, 8 in Monk, 3 in Rogue. Karlak is the Fog Cloud build with 8 in Cleric and 4 into Rogue. Deadeye is our healer with 7 into Cleric and 5 into Sorcerer. And last but not least, Sinazith is our Radiant Orb build with 5 into Cleric and 7 into Fighter. Now I know you're like, that's a lot of Cleric action. And yes it is. There is a lot of Cleric action going on there. And as you can see from this screenshot, we have an insane amount of support options. But even though they are Cleric, they do vary in subclass of Cleric. And as they are Cleric, that means we have a ton of absolutely broken Cleric spells to use. But the funny thing about this setup is in most cases, the only one that will be ever casting any spells is your healer, because the rest of these builds, while Cleric and having the ability to cast spells, they are damage dealing, melee, and ranged builds. Being able to cast spells if they want to, things like Command or Hold Person, so you're guaranteed those crit hits, are just the icing on the cake. Now let's talk about gear and some updates I've made to the previous build guides, starting with the Radiant Orb build. In that build guide, I said to get the pre-pat of Wound Closure. If you are playing that build as a solo build, go with the setup I have in the build guide. If you are going to use the ultimate party comp setup, we need to swap out the necklace because the healer is much better suited to wearing the pre-pat of Wound Closure than the Radiant Orb build. But that is no big deal, as we have a perfectly fine replacement with the Spine Shutter Amulet, which adds crackling healing resonance to your character, which states when the wearer deals damage with a ranged spell attack, it inflicts 2 turns of reverberation on the target. This setup actually works out better than the wound closure amulet because it allows us to stack reverberation even faster on specific targets. So it works as a really good replacement necklace for giving up the wound closure amulet to our healer. The Fog Cloud build got a massive change in gear, and this setup works even better than what I said to use in the original video. So I would use this gear instead. First off, we have the diadem, or however you pronounce that, of arcane synergy, which states that when we inflict a condition, we gain arcane synergy for 2 rounds. That adds our spellcasting modifier to our damage. And because the base of the build is a cleric, we have a decent spellcast modifier helping to boost our damage even more. We also inflict conditions without any problem whatsoever due to the other gear that we have and the ability to create a fog cloud, which if we're standing next to somebody when we do so, it blinds them. That counts as a condition. Of course, we have the Cloak of Cunning Broom. This is a must for the build. That does not change. For our armor, we're going with the Hide Armor +2. You could switch this out for any other armor at any other given point in the game. What we're after here is Ambusher. It gives us +1 to initiative rolls. This one is just one that you can get early on in Act 1. Obviously, there's stuff that you can get in Act 3 that gives you +2 to initiative rolls. So when you can upgrade, you definitely want to upgrade to that. We can wear heavy armor with this build. So even if it's heavy armor, doesn't matter, whatever it is, as long as it gives you that bonus to initiative. This helps to ensure that we always go first, and this build with its current setup should always go first. Then we have the Dark Justicar Gauntlets. This adds 1 to 4 necrotic damage to our attacks. You can upgrade this to any other gauntlets that add damage. There are upgraded versions of just the Dark Justicar Gauntlets that would actually work really well for this build, insanely well, but you have to make a very specific story choice to get them, and you may or may not want to do that. For the boots, we're going with the Speedy Light Feet. This gives us 3 lightning charges whenever we dash. It's kind of a lightning charge build, so having this just helps us generate lightning charges faster. For our main hand melee weapon, we're going with Knife of the Undermountain King. This thing is insane. It has the Organ Rearranger ability, which states that it reduces the number you need to roll a critical hit by 1. This effect can stack when you roll 2 damage or less. You re-roll the dice and take the highest result. The interesting thing about this is, according to the wiki, this works with every attack as long as you have it equipped. So this works even on your bow, and it more or less gives your bow this ability. We also have the Shadow Blade ability on it, which states that you have advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets when using the blade. You can run up to a target, you can disengage to create a fog cloud, you blind them, you get bonus damage from that, and then you can attack them with this and have advantage on your attack because they are heavily obscured. Then you attack them, and because of the way the rest of the build works, you hit them with thunder damage and you knock them backwards, giving you enough room to then hide. For the shield, we're going with the Sentinel Shield. This one's kind of mandatory. Once again, we're after the Heightened Awareness ability here, which gives us +3 bonus to our initiative rolls and advantage on perception ability checks. The perception ability checks is just handy. What we're really after here is that +3 to initiative rolls. We can, with the proper armor upgrade by Act 3, have +5 to our initiative rolls. The bow of choice on this build is the Jolt Shooter. This gives us lightning charges when we deal damage with the weapon. The Eversight Ring is a staple, so we continue to use that. Then we have the Caustic Band for the 2 extra acid damage, and then for our necklace, we're gonna go with the Broodmother's Revenge. This build doesn't get hit very often, but if it does, you get healed, and we just do even more damage when we attack. This build hits like a freaking truck, which it has to because it only has 1 attack per turn. But it does so much insane damage that if you land a crit hit, you can easily one-shot some targets in Act 3. The monk build is pretty much what you would expect for a monk gear setup. We have the Mask of Soul Protection on our head. We have the Cloak of Protection for additional armor class and saving throw bonuses. We have the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation for our chest. We have the necessary Gauntlets of Hill Giant Strength for our gloves. For the boots, we have the Boots of Uninhibited Kushingo, and our necklace, we have the Sentinel Amulet, Ring of Regeneration, potion just helps to keep us alive more. And then one that I recently found out about, which is absolutely amazing ring, is the Ring of Free Action. This is fantastic for this build, as this build needs to be extremely mobile and get around the battlefield. It has Unwavering, which states that we ignore difficult terrain and we cannot be paralyzed or restrained. This is an absolutely amazing ring for this build. Now, we are melee, but just in case we ever do need to shoot something, I just threw the bow of the Banshee on here. It's a decent bow. We're probably never going to use it, but if we do need to use it, we also have a chance of frightening the target, which is very handy because it increases the damage we do when we hit the frightened target. And that's pretty much it for the gear changes there. That's the only changes that I made to the builds. The builds are still leveled the exact same way they are leveled in the build guides. So if you want more information on that, you can go down into the description and check out the individual build guides. Now, as you're watching this footage on the screen of me absolutely devastate the AI with this party comp, there's a few things that I want to talk about here that are probably going to pop up in the comment section. First off, this party doesn't really have a face, but it doesn't really have to. There are plenty of ways to get around not having a designated high charisma character. Now, we do have a bit of a charisma character in our healer, and we could make our main character our healer. And with the proper setup, as you can see, my main character, even though it is not a charisma character, has +6 to intimidation, +6 to persuasion, and +6 to deception. I know that says +7, but I have a -1 to charisma, so that makes those more or less +6. Now, if I made that character my healer, we could easily pass most charisma checks. Now, what about a rogue and picking locks? Well, that one's pretty simple. Just get a hireling or have one of your other characters back at your camp, level full rogue, pick up chests as you're going out about your day and bring those back to camp and have your rogue lock pick them. The other option that you could do is simply have a wizard back at camp that has the knock spell, and that is their only purpose. I would also advise making that wizard a transmutation wizard so that you can get the transmutation stone for its specific bonuses as well. Probably the bonus to constitution saving throws that you could put on one of your characters if you found constitution saving throws to be an issue on one of the characters in this build. However, due to the fact that this party comp contains the Radiant Orb build, I would not worry too much about being hit because most things aren't going to be able to hit your party. So while this party may have some slight weaknesses, overall, it's not too hard to compensate for those weaknesses. Another thing I would make sure that you do is run with a Gith in your party or more than one, because they get the ability to gain proficiency in whatever ability they need to gain proficiency in. And I would pretty much run around with one of those, always having proficiency in perception. It would be a really good idea to make your Fog Cloud build, since they have the shield that gives them bonuses to perception checks, as your Gith character and having them have proficiency in perception. This way you can make sure you make all your perception checks. Also, this party comp overall is very much a combat-oriented party comp, so don't be afraid to just fight most situations. Either you're gonna be able to handle most fights by mid to late Act 1. Fighting is not gonna be an issue for you. Even fights where it seems like you won't have a chance of winning them, they will probably be pretty easy to win, even in Tactician. All right, let me know what your ultimate party comp is down there in the comments section, because I'm sure there are many other absolutely insane party comps out there. This one is just my take on what the ultimate one would be. And if you found this video helpful and informational, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other Baldur's Gate 3 content. And if you're looking for some more content, you can find a link to another one of my Baldur's Gate 3 videos on the screen right now. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to all of my channel supporters for helping to keep these videos sponsor free. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to become an official channel supporter, check out the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.